While checking SG for the latest news on Stalker, I came across this post. It's already starting, with a link to New Game Start. I suppose this is Stalker 2's newest attempted free play, if you want to call it that. However, one of the replies to this post was, "Cool, if A-Life makes a return, then this might be my preferred Stalker 2 experience. If A-Life makes a return, it already has." Linking to A-Life found a way, tweaking the spawn radius. For those of you that wanted actual A-Life, you're not going to have anything like that anytime soon. Sorry. You're just going to have the spawn radius mostly. NPCs spawn around the player in an 800-meter radius. The closer range will be 1 to 2 common unit spawns. Midrange is more likely to see small groups or packs. 400 to 600 is a lower chance of spawning a Poltergeist, a PseudoDog, Burer, Deer. The more exotic, larger mutants have the lowest chance to spawn, so you can work around them. It all started with a drop of Stalker DNA. After Flick and I both finished helping with Shay's living zone, we started experimenting to see if spawn range could be extended. Every new answer came with a new puzzle to figure out. As the experiment continued, we ended up with something that should be closer to A-Life 1.0, and allow spawns to feel more natural. We managed to keep most, if not all, the scenarios intact, but spawning at an appropriate distance. Hopefully this will avoid that forced spawn feeling when you stumble into one. We also included new scenarios so that the more exotic mutants have a small chance to show up like deers and pseudogiants. To balance them, we had them spawning further away from the player's initial current location so that as you move towards a new location, you can pick and choose whether you want to engage something or move around it. The main ingredient of this mod is a tier system deeply tied into the radius from the player, which allows us to restrict and command certain enemy types the player can run into, depending on the distance, which will be explained below. This radius was allowed after rewriting the way that the director is configured, planned with the tier system in mind both in scalability and chance. Imagine a large circle around the player representing the radius. We already have done that. Within this radius are smaller radii leading up to the player's restriction zone for spawns. This field defines the area where offline interactions are pulled, though these offline simulated interactions are currently limited to a range of 400 meters. What happens as you start moving? As you move forward, you should start to see humans and mutants do their own thing. Maybe 1 or 2 in the first 100 to 175 meters. Next, some smaller groups and packs that were spawned in at around 150 to 400. Then there is a low chance to spawn in Poltergeist, PseudoDog, Burer, Deer, etc., 375 to 750 meters. The more exotic, larger mutants have the lowest chance to spawn. However, since they have their own goals, you might encounter them sooner if they happen to be traveling by. The video shown above displays leaving the starting zone for the first time, and how their tier system generated the upcoming interactions ahead of time, based on distance. Fear not, my fellow stalkers, we've also tailored the spawn scenarios for the lesser zone and swamp. To avoid overwhelming the smaller areas, some exotic mutants have been removed and the timing set to a slower rate. Respawn after clearing a lair has been increased to give you time to look around and loot. However, that doesn't mean you should hang out and have a picnic. It's best to finish up your tasks and move on before something comes looking to avenge their fallen companions. VS. There is a rare chance for this to happen still in the mid-range. I believe we also lowered the number of participants. Hopefully this will allow it to feel like you've stumbled into a small skirmish rather than a war. Start new or continue. We feel like it might be best to start with a fresh playthrough. This will likely give you the fullest experience from start to finish. However, you should be fine to use this while continuing an existing save, though it might take a little to adjust your playstyle. We also highly recommend our friend Annie HBX's MHM Modular Hard Mode mod when using our mod with a fresh start. While you might not see much on your initial run, once you pause at a point of interest, lair, or quest, the spawn director should start to catch up and fill in around you. Why didn't we catch everyone else up yet? By the time we had it figured out, cleaned up, and tested enough to know if it was fully functional, we ran out of time. The devs are working on a new patch that could come out any day now, so we wanted the community to at least have the option to see and try it for what it is. Hopefully the devs' next patch will allow it to keep running the way it is. Only they know. To our fellow modders, give it a try. We'll do our best to explain what's going on so you can integrate your own vision or ideas. It's your turn to take the torch again and hopefully push the A-Life we have available a little further. What do the comments say? We'll be working on some changes to exotic spawns this weekend after discovering some new information. Should help tone down how often they appear at times. Also have something experimental to try as well. Assuming it tests out, we'll see if you notice the difference. Update. Sadly, the experiment failed, so that part's off the table. Testing the exotic spawn changes today, along with some patch notes. I found a very bad bug, alias W says. I use a 5% slower version. I came out after a dungeon in the burnt forest, and then I noticed that NPC enemies often spawn at first. A minute later, dogs ran at me, then immediately a deer, wild boars, and finally 4 pseudogiants. This is clearly abnormal. The deer spawn the boars/dogs, that's just their game mechanic. Not sure about the 4 pseudogiants though. Did they all come from the same direction or different directions? You'd have to have really unlucky odds, and a really long time period in a single location, for this mod to spawn 4 of them. Is there a specific distance at which mutants and NPCs are drawn for each type? A pseudogiant appeared on the bridge, and I placed it with a marker and measured the distance, and I noticed that it was drawn at about 100 meters and not at any further distance. This guy's body is so big that even at 100 meters away it looks sudden, but are the others drawn at the same distance? At this current time, GSC removed the ability for modders to increase the draw distance of NPCs, unlike prior patches at the early stage of the game's release. We've looked far and wide and have not found a solution to unlocking how they blocked us. For now, we can only wait to see if GSC re-enables us the ability to modify the draw distance, or do a general increase themselves. Either would be an improvement of the current 95 meter render draw for NPC. Hi, I'm wondering if any fine folks here can give a comparison between this mod and Shay's A-Life, potentially compared to other A-Life mods as well, but I've really only played with Shay's, which I like a lot. My only complaint is the complete removal of those forced battles. They were definitely too prevalent in vanilla, but I would still enjoy them once in a while. I was playing with Shay's up until a week ago. On a scale of 1 to 10 where 1 is empty and 10 is Far Cry Warzone, Shay's felt like a 3, where this started as a 10 and it is now around a 7. So if you want more activity, this is the mod to go for. If you want a more dystopian lonely feel, then Shay's. Apparently lots of people are merging longer days with the mod, which is interesting to see. I would say about a third of the comments talk about the day and night cycle and trying to merge it with this mod. I didn't know that was such a prevalent problem in the community. Anyway, it doesn't seem like there's much else here, to be honest, so I guess that's what we're left with.